Today, Anthony and I have an exceptional guest with over 20 years experience in the retail, hospitality, and technology sector. Our guest has won multiple awards, including the SME 100 Fast Moving Companies and the Loyta Enterprise 50 Awards. I, as your servant today, and I'm sure Tony as well, are thrilled to introduce you to Mike Ghasemi, the founder and chief analyst of the Mike Ghasemi Research. Thank you for joining us today, Mike.
Hi, Jeury. Hello, Anthony. Thank you, and my pleasure to be here. And I'm hoping that we're going to have a fun session tonight.
Oh yeah, I hope so as well. So, Mike, the reason why we wanted to bring you in this podcast is because we wanted to touch on the customer experience. Tony and I were talking off the podcast about how important of creating a customer experience for clients, how important it is. And let's talk about loyalty for a second, because what I keep hearing from companies is that customers are not as loyal as they used to be before. So let's open up with that, with the word loyalty. What does that say to you?
Well, loyalty has a lot of meanings for different purpose. But as far as customer experience is concerned, loyalty is how the customers stick to a brand, and they are following the brands, and regardless of the ups and downs of the brand or the products, they love to be part of the the brand community. So that's how I define the brand loyalty or the customer loyalty. But let's take a step back and define what is customer experience, because I think these are correlated. When we talk about the customer experience, is a perception of the customer on the brand and based on their interactions that they have through the customer journey. And again, when we talk about the customer journey is not necessarily through the service or the products that you're going to purchase. It could be the pre-purchase or could be the post-purchase. So these are all part of the customer journey. But coming back to the loyalty, of course, when it comes to the customer and how they like to actually to see the brand is delivering on their promise, that how they get loyal to the brand, or they start looking at the brand from a different angle.
Tony, anything to add?
Yeah, I think the brand promise or brand perception, right? I mean, it's built over the years. For example, if I say romantic, elegant, and fashionable, which city comes? Romantic, elegant, and fashionable. Which city are we talking about?
Paris,
obviously.
Paris,
Yeah.
Right? Okay. And then what about clean, efficient, disciplined, and modern?
Singapore. I was fast.
Singapore, you see?
Yeah,
So
that's how basically people perceive that city based on their perception. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the brand values, right? And we can relate to it. But the question is, as we said, right? If this is your brand value or brand promise, right? What is my experience with the brand when I'm on my customer journey then? And if they don't align, right, then, it doesn't take very much to turn away a customer if you go misalignment on your brand, right? So many times, just one incident is bad enough. Now, I give you the other extreme of how closely the brand holds to its promise, right? You heard of the department store Nordstrom in the US, right?
Correct.
Now, Nordstrom's value is this, if something you buy and you don't like it, you want to return it, you return it, right? And no questions asked. And the story goes in Nordstrom is that this lady, elderly lady, she went to Nordstrom to return her 4 tires that she bought, right? And Nordstrom just took the tires, But you know what? The reality is this: Nordstrom does not sell tires. They just stuck to that promise, right? Even though it's an old lady and she's no clueless, right? Yeah, but they still stuck to that promise and just took it in. There's one amazing story about how a company sticks to its brand promise, you see? Yeah. even then. So if they turn away the lady, yes, they don't sell tires. What will happen? Wow, hey, Nordstrom turned me away. Nobody's going to ask you, what were you bringing back, right? So I think, it takes us very much to get customer off. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all heard these kind of buzzwords from companies that they want to put customer at the center of their business, and they want to make sure that the customer service is designed the way that at every interaction the customer has with their brands or their business is happy and satisfied, and they're very uh, uh, joyful in terms of interacting with the brands. But what we see, the reality is that at the end of the day, the journey that the customer experience is far different than what the brand thinks that they are delivering to them. So that's another angle that we should actually look at it, because the example that you share, Anthony, is a very good example that they really go out of their comfort zone. In terms of the brand, they really want to, they want to give the power of putting the customer at the center of their business. But how many brands actually really do that? How do they create an effortless experience, frictionless experience? We see that, especially some of the service providers, like, the telcos or the banks, or even, the higher education institutions, they have the very, very, very poor customer experience, even though that it should be opposite. So yeah, interesting to share some of the examples that I personally experienced, I've seen over the years from interacting with different brands and the products.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Mike, so open up the room with one of those examples so that you can give our audience a little more insight on what it's like to see it from an outside.
So a good example, I would say, pre-COVID, obviously we were all wearing suits, and now we changed our wardrobe with t-shirts and a more comfortable clothing. But pre-COVID, because of my engagement with a lot of different companies, and obviously traveling around the world, I needed to keep buying new suits. One of my good experience was with the companies called Sakur Brothers. I'm not sure if you heard about the brand. It's a fashion brand, and so they really, really take care of their customers. And I remember that back in 2017, I went to one of the shops, and I was just browsing, and it was on my birthday. And guess what? After I picked one of the suits for myself and I tried, the salesperson at the shop came to me and said, "Hey, it's your birthday, so we're gonna give you a new white shirts for your new suits." And that came as a surprise. And because of that interaction, I got a very good feeling and a good perception about the brand, that they are not just interacting with me on this transactional basis. So the relationship is not transactional. The relationship is more foundational, and is more meaningful. But of course, there are other brands that they miserably fail at how they interact with the customers. There are bad examples as well. We see that in the next 5 to 10 years, we are going to have more brand casualties, and that's because the customer perception during the customer journey is not very positive. It doesn't matter whether the customer had a good engagement during the transaction, but they also want to see how was their experience post sales. How have they been treated? Have they been treated as a number, or have they been treated more as a human being? So again, coming back to that customer being the center of the business.
As you're saying that, Mike, and you gave the suits example, I was internally laughing, and you even caught me laughing, because when I wanted for my marriage, I wanted to get a new suit, and one of my favorite brands for suits has always been Hugo Boss. So I said, for my wedding day, I wanna buy a really nice Hugo Boss suit. So I go into Hugo Boss. A lady comes up to me and she says, "What do you need?" I says, "Yes, I am looking for a really nice suit, and I like this one." And then she said to me, "Oh, maybe you want to go downstairs." And I said, "Why? Is there more selection or something like that?" And she said, "No, the suits are cheaper." And I said to her, "Okay, that's not a problem. Thank you very much, but I would like this suit." And she said to me, "This is a true story." And she said to me, "No, let's go downstairs because I think the suit is a lot of money." And I was so upset because the person was judging me without even knowing. I don't want to use my skin color or anything like that. Or maybe she was having a bad day. I don't want to give the reason for the type of judgment. But where in her mind I was thinking that she should know how much money I earn or something like that. And or that could be like this this tactic that they use to make you like really want to buy the product, like to show them that you have the money, right? I don't know if that was a tactic, but I was so hurt emotionally because I had such a connection with Hugo Boss because of the way that it looked in a Hugo Boss suit. So I walked out without buying any suit, and then I went.
Wow.
I went to another store, and then I had me a custom-made suit, which was maybe 3-4 times the price of that suit, right? And was the best decision I ever made, right? And then the difference was night and day when I went to this other store. They gave me also a shirt with my name in it. I ended up buying some extra shoes. I sent them about 4 customers after that because of the customer experience that I received.
Yeah. I guess, it begs the question, right, Mike, as you said, there will be more casualties of brands going forward, right? So while everybody knows that, intuitively or perceivably, they know that, okay, brand values needs to be experienced, it's a memory, and customers are going to be turned away if you don't give them the right memory, right? What is stopping companies from really holding on to their brand values? Why are they, not living up to the brand values? When I thought about that, I'm thinking about, customer service calls. A lot of companies say that, you got to deal with this call within 30 seconds, 40 seconds, or whatever the benchmark is, and they just want to get rid of the customer, right? And here you come, Zappos.com. Zappos.com, the rule is this: however long it takes, you'll speak to the customer. And there's been stories in Zappos, where they speak to the customer for hours, right? And yet most companies say, you got to deal with this company within 90 seconds or whatever the case may be, right? So what's stopping companies from really building that relationships so that they hold to their brand values?
Look, there are 2 things to what you shared just now. I mean, one is obviously spending time with the customer, make the customer feel good before you let them go, because obviously the customer wants to have that human interaction. On the other hand, the customer also wants to know or have this feeling that you have a genuine feeling for him or for her. I mean, the genuine interaction is more important on how long you spend. So, and I can give you a very fresh experience. I've been having some problem with my internet at home, and I've been sharing this frustration with Anthony. And I think so far I have interacted with telco, which I don't mind to mention the name. It's Jeury. Is that okay if I say their names?
Shift hits the fan.
Yeah. So the telco company is wonderful. I think if there was a award for the worst customer experience and the worst, the service delivery, definitely Vodafone would get the top prize. For several reasons, because number one, when you interact with them on different channels, whether it's a messaging or calling them or emailing them, you always have to repeat yourself. One of the worst things you should ask the customer is to repeat. and because there is no unified, interactions, across different channels. But on top of that, yes, the people who actually you talk to, especially on the phone, they're very nice people. They're very, friendly. They are very compassionate. But it's not genuine, because when they say something, they don't mean it. So if, let's say, for example, last week they said, we're going to fix this in 24 hours. And it's already a week. And today when I talk to them, I said, look, it's already a week. That 24 hours it's no longer relevant. And you already failed. What are you going to do to make me happy? And they failed. So guess what? I mean, I am going to drop them. I'm going to switch to another telco. Not to say because the other telco could be better. I have no idea. It could be even worse. But my point here is that there are a few things is missing, from my point of view. Number one is that they are not genuine. They don't have any empathy towards the customer when the customer share his frustration. They never come up with any solution. They never go extra miles. They never, go out of their ways to help the customer. So, and they keep repeating themselves, and they're expecting every agent wants actually to ask you, okay, tell me everything from day one, what's happened over the past 30 days. And that becomes very frustrating. So as you can see, when it comes to basically the interaction, it is important to have a unified, interactions, but at the same time, you need to make sure that you deliver on what you promise. And unfortunately, because of the outsourcing that is happening around the world, service providers are outsourcing to other countries. We're talking, and I have nothing against this country or that country, but the fact is that they don't have the empathy. They are just, people who they have been told to provide certain answers, but they are not in the local environment. They are not on the ground, so they don't understand, what's really happening. So there is a lot going on in that space.
Yeah, and when it comes to that, just to expand on that, what's happening is due to budget cuts and saving money, they're going to providers, as Mike mentioned. And these people, they just have a contract. They don't have the brand identity. They don't have the values. They don't identify with the company because they probably haven't even met anybody from that company.
Absolutely.
And therefore, they just want to do the job as quick as possible, get their numbers up so that they can look good, maybe get a raise or keep their job. And that's why there's no space for him.
And Jeury, I won't be surprised if I know that the same person who answered my call could probably answer the calls for other brands. So that means that he is actually taking care of maybe 2 or 3 different, companies or the clients. So he's constantly shifting from a telco to a bank or to a health, service providers or to an insurance company. So he doesn't really have that kind of empathy towards the customer. We are calling, and his job is to just put us on hold so that, we don't switch to their competition. And that's the reality today.
It's interesting because you mentioned core values or values, right? I mean, we still haven't learned from the research that Jim Collins did on his book, Built to Last. They did the research over 6 years, right? And they identified 18 companies. And what made these companies really long-lasting? They stick to their core values, right? Even at expense, I think the example is with Merck. Merck as a drug company, right? I think the story was that there was some country in Africa that needed some vaccinations, and what was going to supply to them, right? Based on the contract and all of that, but they needed the vaccination badly. So when the time came to deliver the vaccine, they were delivered, but then the countries didn't have money to pay for it. Now Merck still delivered the vaccines and gave it to them. So they are willing to lose money in that short term because their value is more important, their core value is more important than profit at that time. Now, the reality is this: in the long term, they still make more money in terms of profits than the other companies who compromise on their values. So it pays to stick to your core values, you see. And that's what I think, when you say that this outsourcing and all of that, they're not able to hold to their core values and delivering it on them. Yeah.
Yep.
So there is benefit in sticking to your core value.
And this brings us right to the next point, the brand experience, right? Because the brand experience stems from the core values. So, Mike, what can we mention today so that companies can take away when it comes to creating a really good brand experience for their clients based on the promise that they make to their potential clients?
Okay, so Jeury, this whole concept of the brand promise and the brand experience is being covered by so many authors in a lot of different books, and I can just because we have a limited time frame in this session, I can just kind of touch a bit here and there and say that the brand experience is interconnected to the brand promise. Because when you start a business, obviously, like any other established businesses that has been around, you have your mission, you have your vision, you have your core values, you have your service portfolios or product, portfolios. And those are the stuff that you come up with, okay, so this is our brand promise. Like, certain car brands or certain, the sports brands, they always have these brand promises. But when it comes to the customer experience, that's where they fail to deliver the brand promise. So that could be the gap. It could be due to the operational issues. There could be because of the way they execute this whole customer experience engagement, or could be simply because the lack of innovation. What I have personally, together with Anthony, we have been talking about the innovation leadership and the whole concept of why innovation is actually helping companies to deliver on their brand promise is because these days, and especially in this current age, without technology, you will not be able to actually to have a seamless customer experience. And when we talk about the seamless customer experience, we talk about delivering your brand promise across any touch points, across any channel, and regardless of how the customer is experiencing or interacting with you during the journey. I think that's one of the biggest issues that most brands are having. And again, another good example, because I'm a biker, and of course I ride bike, and I've been riding Harley Davidson as a brand, and I clearly see that Harley Davidson as a American brand, that last year they celebrated the 100-year anniversary. I think it was 120. Yeah, that was 120 years anniversary. Now they are going through a very, very tough time because they are not able to connect with the new generation of the customers, the new generation of people who they expect something different from the brands. It's no longer about, okay, let's jump on the bike and go on a ride. Let's have some good time and have that kind of interaction. So the brand promise it's slowly failing or eroding just because the company is not really engaging innovation to maintain that kind of brand status. And I see that is happening actually through a few other brands in the market as well. So at the end of the day, who do you want to blame? I mean, who are you blaming the customer that you're not loyal anymore? I don't think so. The customer loyalty is still there. If you treat the customer with respect, with empathy, and with care, the customer will always come back to you. But if you actually treat them, again, as I said earlier, just a number, and that value that you actually put on the customer is on the transactional basis, you will never, ever get beyond that. And that's because, the customer is not, they are not dumb. They can see that the brand is not treating them nicely. So that's where they start, walking away from the brands and, switching or even completely, forgetting about that kind of interaction. And this is right now is happening. And is basically, I would say the innovation is definitely one of the core areas that they are missing to do the brand promise.
Yeah. But, and I think, Mike, the idea that, a product like Harley Davidson is pretty solid product for over 120 years, right?
Absolutely.
The reality is, the reason people bought that product 20 years ago could not be the same reason they want to buy it today. The product is the same.
Absolutely. You see,
Yeah.
we are going through a very interesting phase globally. That everything that that most companies in Western countries are building, you can find a similar or even a better quality from China. Okay, so this is the China effects. And recently, I think, Jeury, you heard that the EU has passed a law to impose a heavy tax or import duty on Chinese-made electric cars.
Correct.
So coming back to this, a brand like Harley Davidson is not just having problem with customer loyalty; they're also facing a very tough competition from China. Okay, so China can actually do 10 times better than them because to build a bike that is fully equipped with different technologies, it's fancy, it connects with the new gen buyers. It's is what the China does. You know what I mean? So a brand that has been around for 120 years, now they can't just talk about the engine anymore. They can't talk about, hey, we have this community. You can customize the bike the way you like because anyone else can do the same. And that's why some of the new gen, customers, they call Harley Davidson a t-shirt company. So to me, that is a real big insult that they don't see it as a motorcycle manufacturer because they see it more like, okay, so they produce t-shirts and shirts and jackets and shoes. So that's actually is happening right now in globally in terms of a lot of different brands. And you can bring this example into the financial sector, into the fintech, into insurance, again, into the telcos.
Yes.
And then you can see that why these companies, they are easily being disrupted. Why? Because they do not have that, the strong brand promise, and they are no longer actually working on that brand promise anymore because they are so caught on, surface level. They are just trying to make the company looks good, but they are failing on so many other areas. So there are many issues that is affecting, but I think, as I said, the core foundation is that they are not innovating anymore. Most of these companies, they stop innovating. And I personally think that Harley Davidson probably 100 years ago was more innovative than what it is today. So they don't value that, the innovation is so important to maintain the relationship with the customer. But of course, in contrast, you also see companies that they heavily invest in innovation. Jeury, you live in Germany, and there's a lot of good brands that that operate in Germany, BMW, Mercedes, and they have a lot of the very strong core values that they stick to that because they know if they lose those values, they will not be able to compete with China. I mean, even now they are facing those challenges. That's why the lawmakers, they are putting some sort of barriers for Chinese companies to enter into EU.
Which will be sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, which will be quite challenging as well because Chinese companies have found a workaround and they have been buying factories all over Europe in the EU.
Absolutely.
So they don't have to pay for this tax. And now we're talking about BYD with their own ships, that they're going to be building the ships on the sea, and there's no tax because they're going to be on the sea. From what I heard, I haven't researched this, but that's what I heard, that they're building in ships. So there's always workarounds. So trying to impose taxes or playing with the money is not the right solution, because this doesn't change the customer experience. This doesn't change this doesn't enhance the bond that people have to the brand. Look at what's happening with Volkswagen. Even people from Volkswagen, they say, we have been too complacent. We have always thought that we're the best, we're the greatest, so we didn't need to innovate. Now China came from out of nowhere. Of course, they came from somewhere. You have been seeing this for the past 10 years, but nobody made a move, and now it's too late.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So that's why, go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, I think we're just going to say that, that's why innovation is so key to the whole idea. As I said earlier, that the reason people bought Harley Davidson 50 years ago is not the same reason they're buying it today, right? We talked about the idea that was initially put forward by Tony Olwick, right? The jobs to be done, right? So the innovation requires for you to really be focused and say, so why is the customer buying this product? What is the job they need to be done? As they said, they're not wanting to buy the drill, but they're wanting to get a hole, right? So that shift needs to happen. You need to shift your thinking. The old idea of market segmentation with personality and psychographics and whatever else you have, right? It's not going to work well enough for innovation. You just have to get down on the ground and say, okay, what are you hiring my product for? What work do you need to get done? What outcome do you want to have? And we need to focus from that point of view of market segmentation. This was not what was taught before in marketing courses and all of that, right? It's a big shift that has to happen now, think of it differently. Why am I buying a Harley Davidson? What's the job that I need to get done with that? Yeah, it's different. And if you can spot that difference, they can find with the right, service or product that meets the customer's needs from that point of view. That's the big shift.
That's very true, Anthony. That's a very, very true statement. And that's why now we live in a experience economy. I don't know whether you heard this term. So in the experience economy, we must create experience that engage customer in a memorable way to stand out. So it's no longer about, we need to have a good customer experience. In fact, this term, the CX, the customer experience, it's in my opinion, it's no longer valid. It's no longer relevant in today's technology-driven economy. So that's why recently I started introducing the unified customer experience, which goes beyond technology integration. It's about aligning the business strategies with your innovation strategy to deliver a consistent and personalized experience. So that's a completely different ball game, because we are no longer, talking about putting customer at the center of your business. We're talking about you need to align your business strategy with your innovation strategy to deliver a consistent and personalized experience that meets the evolving needs of the customer. So that's a different, ball game. So in a way, I'm raising the bar to telling, the companies that whatever you were talking about the CX, throw it away, throw it out of the window. That's not going to work. Now we are talking about a different level of, the CX that is unified, is coherent, is connected. And that's where the companies now need to work on.
And Mike, when we talk about this, we also have to stay conscious about what we are asking companies to do, or CEOs to do, because they have been complacent. They have been doing things in a certain way for 10, 20 years. And now they have to shift, because what they did for 10 years is no longer working anymore. So this takes a lot of power, a lot of guts to shift into the other side. So we also have to have a little bit of, not us, but in general, there needs to be empathy to these people, because it's a massive shift. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's where your expertise are, you and Anthony, you guys are good in leadership culture and leadership transformation. And you're absolutely right. It's no longer about, okay, I'm going to just buy a piece of a technology so that I can actually offer or deliver a better customer experience. It's about, a complete change of, the leadership culture. It's about understanding that the CEO is not the chief executive officer. He's actually the chief experience officer. And if the CEO doesn't understand that his title is no longer about answering to the boards and delivering numbers. It's basically making sure the customers are happy, because an unhappy customer means there is a drop in your sales, in your turnover, and eventually it's gonna hit your bottom line, which is your the company performance. So there's a lot going on, and I know it's very challenging for most of the senior executives, because they have been trained to deliver. They have not been trained to innovate. They have not been trained to the wiring of the brain has to be changed. So I don't know whether we are now on the same page or not, but it's this whole rewiring. Yeah. So this whole rewiring of the C-level brain, that's what we are talking.
And Mike, before we finish the podcast, where can people find you? Let's put all the links on Mike. This has been so insightful that I'm thinking we have to make things happen. We live in different countries, but we have to have dinner. So we have to have dinner together. So Mike, where can people find you?
Well, the first way, I would say the easiest way is to go to my website, www.mikeghasemi.com, and they can connect with me. They can read the stuff that I've written about, the unified customer experience, and especially on the innovation side of it. They can also connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty much active on LinkedIn on a daily basis. So I write about different topics, sometimes a bit off topic, because I try to relate, how the politic and, the policies are also affecting, the businesses globally. But yeah, these are the two ways that, if anyone wants to connect with me, I'm happy to have a conversation.
Excellent. I will be putting all the links here below in the podcast. And if you're listening, just look at the show notes.
Thank you.
Find anything from Mike. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for joining us today. Tony, nice seeing you again. Yeah. And I'll see you on the next podcast, Tony.
Cheers, man. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Jeury.
All right. Bye-bye.